What do you expect? That was just, that's unbelievable.
Tonight, a getaway that could have been stopped. What our I-team uncovered about a teenager's escape from custody. It may look like an ordinary traffic stop, but wait until you hear what happened after one officer turned off his dash cam. And why would a murder victim's family agree to a sentence many felt was too light? The reason behind Randy Maidens' last-minute plea deal.
Working for you in high definition, this is Channel 4 News at 6.
Good evening and welcome to Channel 4 News at 6. Just how difficult was it for a teenager to slip away from DCS custody on a trip from Memphis to Nashville?
The Channel 4 I-team has uncovered new information that puts an entirely new spin on what happened. The escape happened a week ago today. The 17-year-old escaped in Bellevue, causing a school to lock down and an extensive police search. The I-team has been digging into how he got away, but what we found is raising even more questions. Channel 4's Nancy Amons joins us now with the details. Nancy.
Well, it didn't require a complex Houdini act. The I-team has learned that the 17-year-old convicted burglar ran from DCS custody after he was left alone. This is 17-year-old Bruno Valencia, just minutes after he was captured by Metro Police a week ago. They caught him in a Bellevue fast food parking lot. A few hours earlier, Valencia ran as he was being transported from a juvenile facility in Memphis to a DCS meeting in Nashville. We're getting a clearer picture tonight of how he managed to get away. According to this police report, the person driving Valencia went to the restroom at the MAPCO, leaving Valencia outside, telling the suspect to stay until he got back. The driver is the man you see here wearing shorts, Daryl Terry. He was driving for a DCS private contractor called Omnivisions. Daryl Terry had his wife Loretta with him. I talked to a clerk who was working at this MAPCO the day this all happened. She can't go on camera, but says the man and the woman both came in at the same time. They got coffee and were taking a break. The clerk says the man went out to the parking lot, then ran back in, saying the teenager had run away. Valencia was captured a few miles away after a police manhunt.
Police can't catch nobody. Turn myself in.
Representative Sherry Jones is a frequent critic of DCS. We showed her what we found.
How can you be the person responsible for a teenager, two people, and you both get out of the car and leave the teenager? What do you expect? That was just, that's unbelievable.
Teens on the run, that's a sensitive issue for DCS after 32 teens escaped during a riot at Woodland Hills Youth Development Center earlier this month.
It's just another hole in the system, totally.
So who are Daryl and Loretta Terry? Omnivisions now confirms they are foster parents from Robertson County, but not Valencia's foster parents. Omnivisions says it often calls on its foster parents to provide transportation for kids in custody. It's a policy they're now rethinking. And Omnivisions now confirms that the state offered to provide a secure state vehicle for the ride. They offered to meet Omnivisions partway between Memphis and Nashville, but Omnivisions declined. Now, as we first reported last week, this was the second time in a month that Omnivisions had a teen escape custody during a transport. There was also an escape on September 2nd, also in Bellevue. Tom?
Nancy, thanks. Dash cams allow police departments to see what happened during a traffic stop. But in this case, it's what wasn't shown that cost an officer his job. We will never know for sure what happened during that stop because the officer shut off his dash cam before talking to the woman he pulled over. But it's what happened in the weeks since that police officials say crossed the line. Channel 4's Alana Otler explains.
When a Mount Juliet police officer pulled a woman over on Lebanon Road, he claimed it's because she had expired tags. Turns out she didn't. What happened next, we will never know. Officer Drew Jackson shut off his dashcam video and microphone. When the woman came home, her boyfriend heard her side of the story.
He said that I'm not allowed to do this. I can get in trouble for it, but I cut my camera and mic off. But I'm gonna let you go, but don't you take my number.
In this letter to city officials, Jackson admits he gave the woman his personal cell number. And that's not all. The officer let her slide on something she did lack, a valid license.
That's another thing that we don't do. Her license being suspended, they're suspended from the state. And so that's somewhat of a state violation.
Chief James Hambrick fired Jackson just 4 days later. In his appeal letter, Jackson wrote, "I chose to give this lady a break. She was a single parent and more than likely could not afford the citation." Just hours later, that lady heard from Jackson again. According to these Facebook messages, she heard from him at least 4 times that night. The woman claimed she had never met Jackson, but Jackson had tried reaching her before, more than 2 years before the traffic stop.
Use his police cruiser to gain access to know her, to meet her. It's beyond respectable.
That type of conduct is nothing that we condone. We are professionals, and we should carry ourselves in a professional manner as well.
Jackson didn't want to comment on this story. Officials confirm he violated several rules, giving out a personal number, failing to write a citation, and of course, shutting off his dash cam.
Cameras are there to help us, you know, in cases like these. If somebody, oftentimes people can make accusations on an officer that such and such happened.
When he was fired, Jackson was actually still a probationary employee. He had only been working for the police department for about 3 to 4 months. The city upheld the decision to terminate him. Reporting in Mount Juliet, Alana Altler, Channel 4 News.
A school bus driver is now in jail, accused of raping a 16-year-old boy on 2 separate occasions. Police say Patrick Pendleton was arrested after the victim's mother called Springfield police, saying her son had been sexually assaulted. She said the first incident happened on a school bus in Gallatin. The second happened at the suspect's home in Springfield. Robertson County Schools say they have suspended Pendleton while they await an investigation. They don't believe there are any more victims involved. A Clarksville man's disappearance is now being treated as a murder. 80-year-old Bobby Dozier disappeared on Sunday night. Police found his dog the next day roaming along the Old Tennessee Trail in Henry County. The following day, they found his car abandoned in the very same area. And a short time later, they found his body in the woods.
The cell phone had been pinging Monday around the Tennessee Trail area, and the dog had been found. Mr. Dozier's dog had been found in Port Road. We were concentrating our search in that area.
Police say Dozier was reported missing in Callaway County, Kentucky, where he owns a lake house. They still don't have any suspects in the case.
There's still a lot of cleaning up to do at a motel in a brand new apartment building in Clarksville. Police say meth labs caused some damage at both of those locations overnight. 2 one-pot meth labs exploded at the Meadow Motel. 3 people were arrested. On the other side of town, another meth explosion at the Spring Creek Apartments triggered the sprinkler system in that building. 12 units were damaged by the water. No one's been arrested in that case. Well, firefighters know when there's an emergency, just one small detail could mean the difference between life and death. That is why some of Nashville's first responders are stunned that a key piece of equipment has not been up and running for 2 days. We are working for you, digging into the problem. Channel 4's Patrick McMurtry is live in Inglewood for us this evening. Patrick?
Tom, it turns out that this engine right here, this fire engine, was taken from Station 29 here in Inglewood, and taken over to Madison because the Madison truck was down. They didn't have a good backup because of maintenance issues, keeping the fleet running. An aging fleet is problematic, and when you've got a city that's growing as fast as Nashville, these things are going to keep happening. According to the Metro Fire Department, though, help is on the way.
I do not want to go to a family and tell them that your loved one has passed away because of an issue of equipment failure.
Mark Young heads the local firefighters union, and he's worried that old broken down equipment is putting firefighters and the public at risk. This engine was transferred to Madison for a couple of days, leaving the Inglewood station without a working engine. Metro Fire Assistant Chief Ricky White says his department does the best it can with the equipment it has and promises no property and nobody has suffered because of idle trucks because they have a plan in place.
We routinely have piece of equipment out of service. We're just constantly taking one piece of equipment from one part of town and maybe moving it to the next district over or something like that. It's just the way you have to do things.
White says things will be a lot better for everyone when the department gets 11 new trucks next year. He says that will let the department get rid of the 11 oldest and make the reserve fleet a lot more dependable. He goes on to say any notion that this is a chronic problem is just plain wrong.
During the past 6 months, there's not been more than one engine or truck company closed due to mechanical failure for a significant period of time. The longest period of time we had one individual piece shut down was for 3 days.
White says there have been 8 or 9 times, though, when a station was down a truck for 1 day because of problems, and that Metro's GSA is responsible for keeping the fire trucks running. His team is responsible for manning the engines and putting out fires. Young says that's very hard to do when the firefighters use trucks and equipment they can't fully depend on.
Part of my job is to make sure that the men and women of the National Fire Department are safe and that they're in safe equipment. With what we're in now, it is unsafe.
And I'm told by longtime firefighters the issue really happened several years ago when the fire department moved their maintenance program over to GSA, the General Services Agency. Firefighters say once that happened, there just isn't the sense of urgency to get the equipment back up and running as soon as possible as there was when the fire department took care of their own maintenance. Either way, that's the issue. White says they're going to have to live with it until they get those new trucks in. That should, he said, solve a lot of the problem. Reporting live, Patrick McMurtry, Channel 4 News.
Well, it happened in the blink of an eye, but it could take days to clean up after a bad crash in Murfreesboro. Police say Michael Reynolds drove his pickup through a red light at the corner of Clark and Jones and slammed into another car. He then drove through a churchyard, hit a fence, smacked into the back of an apartment building, and finally came to rest in a family's yard.
Came by and scraped the front of David's truck and then hit the road and completely made a donut around here, knocked all the garbage cans.
Police say Reynolds was driving drunk. The woman in the car he hit was taken to the hospital but expected to be okay.
Stay with us. It was a sentence that many thought was too lenient. Coming up, hear the reason behind a last-minute plea deal that could eventually set a convicted killer free.
Well, we've had some more of those pesky clouds again today. We're watching some showers that are off to the north. We could actually see a little of that activity coming our way a bit later tonight. I'll tell you about that just ahead.
And who's telling the truth? The group trying to save historic Studio A is firing back at claims from the studio's new owners.
And still ahead at 6:30, we'll chat with the America's Got Talent star who has a real chance of bringing the $1 million home to Franklin. Hear what he's saying about tonight's finale right here on Channel 4.
Bricks cracking and bowing basement walls can be symptoms of structural problems in your home. Trust the job of restoring your foundation's integrity to a company known for integrity.
We'll guarantee our best. Call USS.
Have you heard the news? Kroger has lowered prices on thousands of items throughout the store. So you'll find new lower prices on the things you and your family